Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of Tuesday Evening Quarterback. We're here for the draft wrap-up and season preview show. And for such a special occasion, today we have a very special guest along with us, the Vice President of Operations of the Mutant Football League, Miss Leah McCann. Thank you for joining us, Leah.
Thank you for having me here today.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Leah is not only going to help us to analyze, scandalize, and gambleize some of the ups and downs of this year's MFL Draft, but I believe I've also coerced her into helping us pick some division conference winners and wild card. Is that correct?
All right, yeah.
All right, I'm going to hold you to it. Well, folks, let's get right into it here. Round one was pretty much as advertised. No big surprises with LaDainian Tomlinson going off the board number one. Coach Sean Lyons picking Brian Westbrook number 2 overall. Perhaps surprised a few people, but not the old Humper. I love Brian Westbrook, and I think that's a great pick. So, round one pretty much as advertised. Let me ask you this, Leah. Was there anything that, really caught you off guard in the MFL Draft this year?
I have to say, I do question Brad Mantell's ability to coach in this league. Drafting a kicker number 8 overall, in round 8, number 92 overall, it's just silly. Even if that kicker is Steven Gostowski. It's almost as if Coach Mantell was rum drunk on dark and stormies during the draft.
You don't say. Well, sources close to the Humper tell the Humper that Coach Mantell, General Manager Mantell, perhaps was indeed rum drunk. But Coach Brad Mantell has been known to do some silly things. Let me ask you this. What else surprised you about the MFL Draft this year?
Well, I can't say it surprised me really, Hump, but I did find it amusing how Coach Brian Daly ripped the Tuesday Evening Quarterback in the press for suggesting that Team Bleeding Green would in fact draft Clinton Portis in round 1, then turned around and did exactly that.
Well, before we move on to some more questions and interrogation of Miss McCann, I would love to compliment you on that absolutely fabulous glass of Chardonnay that you appear to be drinking right there.
This is compliments of Coach Brian Daly.
I imagine it is. Well, Leah, now that we've heard from you what you thought wasn't exactly great, what did you find good about the MFL Draft?
Well, one of the things I thought was awesome was Coach Johnny M got an absolute steal in round 4, picking Plaxico Burris, number 45 overall. If Plex can stay healthy, he will have a redonkulous season, huh?
I can't say I can argue with you on that point. Plaxico Burris did hang around a little longer than expected, and of course the 2-time world champion of the world, Coach Johnny M. Monks, hopped right on him, and I believe Plexico will have one heck of a season. Well, how about this, Leah? Is there anybody who perhaps is flying under the radar and many people aren't talking about that you think might have a big year this season?
Well, I'm going to have to say you got to keep an eye out for rookie wide receiver Eddie Royal. He's thought to be only a return specialist coming out of the draft. I predict Royal will finish the season as a top 20 receiver. Buffalo Soldiers grabbed Royal number 144 overall in the 12th round.
Did you say a top 20 receiver?
I sure did, huh?
That's going out on a limb, and that's why we love you, Leah. Well, Leah, I think you've made some great points here today. And if I could, I'd just like to add a few steals I thought I saw myself there in the draft this year. And the first would be by Mr. Jeffrey Calabrese of the Steel Axe. He was able to draft a fellow by the name of Chris Johnson, number 89 overall in the 8th round. Now, Chris Johnson, that boy can run really, really fast. They say he clocks in at a 4.2. Now, before the Humper was an old, drunk, decrepit man, I used to run a 4.14 when I was in high school. Only kidding. Let's move on. I also thought that the dirty, sexy South took a gamble on a young running back that could pay big dividends for him this year. And in that same round 8 at number 91 overall, the dirty, sexy South and the man in black were able to draft a guy by the name of Jonathan Stewart. Now, Jonathan Stewart, he ain't so fast like Chris Johnson. He don't run no 4.2 40s, but he's a big bruising back. And he's kind of in the mold of Marion Barber. You get in his way, bam, he's going to run you over. All right, well, I think we've given the viewers a good inside look at some of the steals and deals and the not so much stealing and dealing of this year's MFL Draft. let's have a look at the Humpers draft grades. And we'll kick off this edition of the Humpin' Good 2 Minutes with Team Bleeding Green. They're led by a great quarterback, Big Ben Roethlisberger, who's poised to have a great season. They got two quality backs in Clinton Portis and Marshawn Lynch, although I think they got a lot of question marks on the wide receiver front with a suspended Steve Smith, an injured Chad Ochocinco, and a Dwayne Bowe playing in just a putrid offense. The bench is pretty weak overall, except Felix Jones, who could be a bright spot. Overall, I'm going to give Team Bleeding Green a C+ as a draft grade. Let's move it on to the Buffalo Soldiers. While they are led by Tom Brady, who is without question the greatest quarterback in the universe. They've also got running back Ryan Grant, who if he could put together a full season like he put together a half season last year, could be dominant. Thomas Jones is solid yet unspectacular, filling out the backfield. Santonio Holmes is going to have a huge year, and TJ Housie-Omama is a very solid wide receiver. Chris Cooley's the most consistent tight end in the league over the past 5 seasons. He's averaged at least 700 yards and 6 TDs in those years. And he's coming off his best year of 831 yards and 7 touchdowns. Some good depth at backup quarterback, but other than Donald Driver, the bench is filled with a bunch of unproven guys. Buffalo Soldiers are going to get a B from the Humper. Moving on to the Baltimore Mad Cows. Well, the Baltimore Mad Cows, they got Derek Anderson anchoring their team at quarterback. He's injured, and it's yet to be seen if he can put together a season like he did last year. Old Joseph Adai, he's their main running back, and he's a heck of a good running back, but it'll be interesting to see how he can perform without Jeff Saturday under center. Reggie Bush is not an every down back, and the Mad Cows are playing him like he is. He's a great third down change of pace back, but he cannot carry the load. Marquise Colston's going to be the bright spot of this team. In his 2-year career, he's averaged 84 catches, 1,120 yards, and 9.5 touchdowns. And I look for him to put up even bigger numbers this season. Older than dirt, Joey Galloway's on the other wide receiver, and he's played in at least 14 games since 2005, and he's averaged over 1,000 yards and 6 TDs in those seasons. They got options at tight end with Todd Heap and Algie Crumpler. But unless D'Angelo Williams surprises, the bench is putrid. Baltimore Mad Cows getting a C-. Rounding out the grades in the Jackass Conference is going to be the Chi-Town Hustle. Now, these Chi-Town Hustle are led by Carson Palmer. He hasn't thrown fewer than 26 touchdowns since 2005, and he's averaged 4,000 yards and 29 TDs over the last 3 years. Brian Westbrook is a potential MFL MVP. And Jamal Lewis, although he's been around a while, is still only 29 years old and coming off a 1,300-yard, 9-touchdown season. There's a few question marks at wide receiver. Is Marvin Harrison still Marvin Harrison, or is he a half-a-fag who can't play football no more? And can Greg Jennings have another big year without Brett Favre? Jeremy Shockey should have a big rebounding year at tight end, and there's a lot of decent depth on the bench at running back led by Lendale White. They also got some great options at wide receiver with Kevin Curtis and Dante Stallworth. My only question about the Chi-Town Hustle is, where the heck's the backup quarterback? I don't see no that backup quarterback anywhere on this team, and that's the only thing keeping them from getting an A. The Chi-Town Hustle getting a B+ from the Humper.